Hey, what's up everybody? In the previous video, we built this cutting edge application, which is just absolute fire. It allows us to add elements to a list and remove elements from the list. But now I want to take this up a notch. We're going to start working with custom objects because we might not just want to put strings in here. We might want to put book objects that we get from a database. Because we're going to be making a summer reading list. So this actually gets a little complex, so pay attention, but we are going to get through it. We already have the basis on how to add and remove data. We just need to add an extra layer on top of this, which is the object part. So it's nothing too crazy, but just a few weird things that I'm going to call out that you need to watch out for. So the first thing is we're going to need some extra code here. So what are we going to need? We're going to need a book class, which we created in this series. You can get this code up on my GitHub or just type it out real quick. So my GitHub is github.com/Caleb Curry. Then just go to /Python. I feel like I'm always selling this link, but really it doesn't help me at all if you go look at that code. But if you want to, you can go get the code from there. And next up we have this Books SDK, which this is a little bit more substantial. And we built something like this in the previous videos. You can get this code up in my GitHub as well. This books.db, you're not gonna have to worry about that because the SDK is gonna create that for you right here. So again, you can find those files right here. Caleb Curry /Python again. And then you can get book and books SDK. So instead of just having one input here, we're actually gonna need two inputs. So we're gonna want one for the book title and the book pages. You could expand it out if you want more stuff for the book, but just to keep it simple, those are the two fields we're going to be working with. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a label so people know what to do. So right before this entry, we're going to create a label and we're going to call this label the title. So Tkinter.label, and this is going to take the TK object and then the text, which will say book title, and then we'll say title.pack. And we're going to do something very similar with pages. So actually we'll just copy both the label and the entry, paste this. So now we have a title here, and then we're going to get the pages down here. So pages, and then say book pages. We also need to update the pack, so pages.pack. Whenever you copy and paste, it's so easy to forget to change something and introduce bugs. For example, not updating this entry variable because I'm just replacing this here. So we will call this one title entry. And then this one down here we will call pages entry. So graphically, everything should look right. Run this. All right, so we got a book title, book pages. Then we can add value. We could update that to say add book if we wanted. And then we could say remove selected book. So that is all we need for the graphical user interface. We just need to update the functionality up here because this is no longer going to work. For one, we have some different variable names, so it's going to break it. So for example, we try to add data, we get some exceptions in here. So we need to fix that now. So let's take a look at add to list. The very first thing is we can actually construct a book object using those entries. So the book requires a title and the pages. So the first entry was title entry, and then we can say .get. So that'll get that value. And then we can say pages entry .get, and that'll get the pages. Then what we can do is we can insert that into the list box here. So we'll just pass in book. And this entry.delete was clearing that entry, but now we would need this to say title_entry.delete as well as pages_entry.delete. That'll clear out both of those inputs. And in order to work with this book object, we actually need to do an import. So we'll say from book import book with capital B, and we'll also import the book SDK, which we'll use later. So that's how you do that. Run this. Let's just test it out. We'll say hello, book pages is 5. Add that. Hey, and it works. Now you might be wondering, why is this any more valuable than just doing strings? Why do you need to be working with book objects? Well, The whole thing is that we want our objects to be a representation of our data in the database. If we're just working with strings, then there is a disassociation, which I just don't like that. So it would be ideal if we were able to iterate through all of our books from our database and put them inside of this list box. And then we could remove any of the books from this list, and it would automatically delete those from the database. To do that with strings can introduce errors. Anytime we can use objects, I think that is ideal. Although it's probably possible with strings. We did create SDK functions, getting by title. You could probably create one delete by title, whatever you want to do. But enough rambling, let's talk about removing from the list. Honestly, if we're just working with the data as is, this should work. We just remove and it goes away. But if we want to coordinate that with database work, then there's an extra step that's going to be needed. So that's the next logical step in this application, is to start working with the database. So that's what I'm going to try to do now. When we add to the list, I want to create a new book record in our database. So what we could do is we can say books SDK dot add book and pass in our book object. We can confirm if this works because this add book in here will return the last row ID. So that should be a valid number, which will evaluate to true if passed into an if statement. So if it was inserted properly, then we can add it to the list box. So in other words, we're not going to say that it worked until we can confirm that it worked. So run this. Let's just make sure nothing is too broken. Let's close out of this and let's try it again. Hello, 5, add a book. It shows up here. We don't get any errors, so I believe it's working.